I just finished watching the Ewoks Cartoon series, and well... Welcome back to the channel. I had never watched the Ewoks Cartoon series that was made from 1985 to 1986. But the first time I was introduced to anything outside of Star Wars movies was an Ewok adventure, in where two kids who had crash landed with their parents on Endor and separated from them had to go on a huge adventure to find their parents with the help of Wicket and some of the Ewoks. That's where I learned Wicket's name and that there were more adventures to be told in the Star Wars universe. But the cartoon called The Ewoks was something that I never knew existed. So let's get into the history of the Ewoks cartoon series. In 1983, the Return of the Jedi movie was a success with the public, and although hardcore Star Wars fans at the time rated this last installment as the weakest of the three movies, most of the criticism landed on the Moon of Endor and the introduction of the Ewoks. Some critics called them a childish introduction of a set of characters who seemed out of place in the Star Wars story and was pandering to children. And that was exactly the group of fans who loved them. And as a child, when I saw the Ewoks, I absolutely loved them. And my favorite was the small Ewok that found Leia lost in the forest. At the time, I never knew this character was called Wicket, but the popularity with these characters with children brought on a ton of merchandise aimed at kids, from Halloween costumes to clothes, night lights, and yes, action figures. Kids wanted more Ewoks. So in 1985, the Nelvana production company with Lucasfilm Limited released 2 seasons of the Ewoks, with season 1 premiering on ABC on September 7th, 1985.
We are the spirits from the forest go.
The first season really sets up the Ewoks as a tribe that lives in the forest of Endor and are much one with their environment. Their main adversaries are the Duloks, led by King Gornish and Queen Urga, with the king's right-hand man, Umwok, a Dulok shaman, and the evil Morag, the Tulag witch. Now, in the series, there are other adversaries that are introduced, but the Duloks appear more often than not, and it sort of makes them the Gargamel to the Ewok Smurfs, if you want to use that analogy, as the Duloks are always trying to take over the Ewok village throughout the series. The main Ewoks that are introduced are young Wicket, whose dream is to be an Ewok warrior one day, and that's his main goal in life. Young Misa, the daughter of Chief Chirpa and the future queen ruler of the tribe. Young Tebow, who dreams of 2 things, being an Ewok shaman and being the love of Latara, a female Ewok who enjoys the finer things in life and is sort of the Smurfette of the series. Elder Chief Chirpa, leader of the Ewok tribe and leader of the warriors. Elder Logray, the wise magic-wielding shaman of the Ewoks, who eventually takes Tebow under his wing as an apprentice, and Logray is the keeper of the Sunstar, which we'll get into later. Young Paplu, the biggest and strongest of the young Ewoks. And Milani, an Ewok youngling, and she has a huge crush on Wicket and longs for his attention. There are other Ewoks that get featured in episodes, but these are the main ones that get the most story and screen time.
We are the
The opening music is a bit jarring at first, but putting myself back in time as a 6-year-old, I can see that hearing this coming from the TV, you knew that it was Ewoks time, and by the 3rd episode, you're singing that theme song and getting ready for another adventure. And to tell you the truth, it took me about 3 episodes to get into it, but when I did, I did. And although it's only something that I watched to do this episode, if I was to discover these as a kid, I would have loved them. The animation style and detail gets better as the episodes goes on, and the stories and lessons that they teach to kids are pretty entertaining and have some good messages also. Almost like little Ewok parables on how to live a good life. Although Wicket could be said to be the star and is often the most prominent character, he's not always the one to get the center story, as there is character development for all the Ewoks, and you get to know all their personalities and traits throughout the series. You even get to know the Duloks and their character traits as well. All of the characters are cute, lovable, even the villains become lovable, and the stories, although having predictable plots, are really fun to watch. As the season goes on, we discover that the Sunstar is the main source of power for the Ewoks, and it's this stone that brings balance to the forest. It seems that every adversary who knows about this power tries to take it from Logray and the Ewoks to take over the forest. And there is a huge backstory with Logray and the evil rich Tulog and sets up the story of the Sunstar. And George Lucas loved this cartoon series so much and was a fan of it that he gave the Nirvana production company the rights to produce a second season. The new second season brought us a new theme song, updated animations, and new voice actors. And to tell you the truth, the only change from season 1 to 2 that I wished had stayed the same was the voice actor for Logray, but that is a super nitpick. The characters stay the same for the most part, and we get introduced to more adversaries as well as 2 mini-stories per episode, which is nice, but sometimes the stories feel rushed and we have to get to the point quicker, but it's great that we got to see and hear more stories, although Season 1 took more time with character development from episode to episode, and in Season 2, we get to see the characters in more action situations. I love that the writers and creators often made the Ewoks solve problems and never made violence or battle if first option, and took into consideration their surrounding neighbors who shared the forest and the consequences of what war could be. We also get to know Wicket's full name to be Wicket Wystri Warrick, who gets his name from the actor who actually played Wicket in the Return of the Jedi movie, Warwick Davis. Wicket W. Warrick made his first appearance in the Return of the Jedi and was played by the already mentioned Warwick Davis, who was 11 years old when he got the part to play an Ewok extra. But when Kenny Baker, who was famous for playing R2-D2, became ill and couldn't play the role of Wicket, George Lucas picked Warwick to play the part after seeing Warwick perform roles as an extra. In Season 2, it also introduces Dr. Rhaegar, who works for the Empire, and you can see the story start to cross into the events leading up to the Battle of Endor in Return of the Jedi. Dr. Rhaegar wants to use the Sunstar as a weapon for the Empire. But all in all, the series was made for children, and the show does a great job to stay fun, have simple stories and lessons, and keep the animation fresh and entertaining. And as an Easter egg, Paul Dini, who wrote the best cartoon series in history in my opinion, the Batman animated series, got his start as a writer for the Ewoks Cartoon series. So if you haven't seen the Ewoks Cartoon, you can watch both seasons of the Ewoks right now on Disney+. So if you have that, head on over there and catch up on your childhood. Personally, I thought that they were awesome, and as a Star Wars fan, I really enjoyed them and what the artists and the writers did to bring that story to life. So thanks for joining me and going over that brief history of what the Ewoks cartoon series was. And if you found this video interesting, please hit that like button. It does support the channel. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time.